Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Thursday, December 6th, 2018. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest film and TV news, and maybe have a little bit of an argument over what constitutes a Christmas movie. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Weekend Editor Brad Oman.
Hey, that's me.
Senior Writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
And Writer Chris Evangelista.
Hello.
Chris, I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but here in Los Angeles, it has been pouring like cats and dogs. It's been crazy. I do not want to leave my house.
No, it's not. It's sunny here, but it's also cold because we have seasons, unlike LA.
Well, it's strangely cold here, which is crazy. Okay, let's jump into it because this morning the 2019 Golden Globe nominations were announced. HT did a whole write-up for the site where you can read all the nominations. But Ben, tell us about the biggest categories, and then we'll talk about maybe some surprises and snubs.
Yes, so the Golden Globe Award nominations were announced this morning. Andy Samberg and Sandra Oh are going to be hosting this year's ceremony, and the nominees in the Best Motion Picture Drama category are Black Panther, BlacKkKlansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, If Beale Street Could Talk, and A Star Is Born. And then in Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, you have Crazy Rich Asians, The Favorite, Green Book, Mary Poppins Returns, and Vice. And Vice, I think, is one of the bigger surprises of the entire Golden Globe, like all of the nominations across the board, because that movie doesn't necessarily strike me as a Golden Globes-friendly film. Chris, I think, is probably the only one here on this podcast who's seen the movie already.
I've also seen it. I agree with Chris. Okay. I do love this movie, but it has... I'm not even sure the review embargo has broken on this movie. Has it, Chris?
No, it's not up until next week, but it's definitely very polarizing. I know for a fact that for some reason all the critics in New York feel one way about this film as opposed to everyone else. So Peter and I are on the opposite end of the spectrum of the critics in New York. So take from that what you will. That's me dancing around saying what I think about the movie.
And also by the way, I got a screener and was not told what I could not say about the movie. So no embargo for me. But the fact that we both agree with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association might be a bad sign for us, Chris.
Yeah, I'm considering changing my opinion. I already wrote my review, but now I have to go back and give it a different review because I don't want to be in league with the Golden Globes.
And just for people maybe who are listening to this who haven't been paying attention to how the Golden Globes work, that it's a voting body that consists of something like 90 people. It's definitely less than 100 people, and it's all journalists who, not to like denigrate anybody, but just like look at the nominations over the past 10 years, and you can see that this is true. They love glad handing with famous people, so a lot of their nominations from all across all these different categories are basically in the hopes of convincing movie stars to show up to the ceremony so they can, take pictures with them and hang out and feel cool about themselves. So, that's a long way of saying anybody who puts too much stock into the Golden Globes and whether this movie got nominated or that one did or is really disappointed about this stuff really shouldn't care about the Golden Globes that much.
That said, what are some other surprises here? I guess First Man and Widows not appearing, that's kind of, kind of shows that they're probably not going to be big players this year for award season.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. One of the bigger surprises for me was that Mary Poppins Returns didn't get any nominations for song, and that's one of the things that I figured would be. Mary Poppins Returns is like the perfect Golden Globes movie. It has a bunch of famous people in it. It's very like bright and poppy and colorful and sort of garish and loud at times. And I feel like they really react to that. And I just assumed that they would love every aspect of this movie. But it seems like the best original song category, Mary Poppins Returns got no love. And I guess other people have pointed out that the original Mary Poppins also did not get nominated in this category, but I don't think that that's necessarily an indicator that the music in both movies is on the same level, because it's certainly not.
Yeah, and on the TV side of things, I know I've not seen this show, but The Americans is one of those shows that everybody's telling me to watch. It's considered one of the best dramatic shows of the last decade, and it finally got a nomination for Best Drama. What was shut out, I think this might upset Ben a little bit here, is Maniac.
That was like one of my favorite TV watching experiences this year, was going into Maniac not knowing anything about it and just sort of being blown away by what Cary Fukunaga did with that show. The only other huge upset in the TV category that I can think of is that Atlanta sort of got shut out. The second season of Donald Glover's show has been popping up on almost every best of TV year-end list that I've seen recently, and the Golden Globes have just ignored it. So, that's an odd omission there. Yeah,
and also Atlanta didn't get nominated, but instead Sacha Baron Cohen's Who's America. I don't know. I think I'm probably seeing the reason why the Hollywood Foreign Press Association maybe is so into Vice is maybe it's kind of a political statement. It's a very political movie.
Maybe, but like, Chris, would you peg the cast of Vice as the type of actors that the people in the HFPA would want to like glad hand with? It seems weird, doesn't it?
I mean, performance-wise, they're great. I mean, Christian Bale and Amy Adams are phenomenal in general, and they're great in this movie. But Christian Bale is weird because he always seems very standoffish, and I can't picture him, schmoozing with people. But at the same time, I actually had read that Vice was the last film they watched before they voted. So I had this feeling like it was the freshest film in their mind. That's why it got all the nominations. But that sounds like I'm underselling the movie. I like the movie.
I love how we imagine the Hollywood Foreign Press Association members to be like the most idiotic, stupidest people ever.
They all have dunce caps on. They're just banging their heads against the wall.
I do remember seeing the Prometheus in a movie theater in London, and at the end of the movie, I guess spoilers for Prometheus, David's head gets chopped off, and a Hollywood Foreign Press Association member behind me was confused that he was a robot. At that point in the movie, at the end of the movie. Okay, anyways, I that's not indicative of all the members of that organization, but I did want to relay that. Okay, anyways, let's move on to the new Chucky movie. The creator of Child's Play is not happy about this. Chris, tell us about it.
Yeah, so Don Mancini has been involved with Child's Play since the beginning. He's the guy who came up with the idea. He's either written or directed every single movie in the franchise up until this remake. So what happened here is MGM owns the rights to the first Child's Play. They don't own any of the others, but they own the first one, which means they can do, whatever they want with the property. And what happened is, obviously they decided we're going to make a remake of it. And Don Mancini has nothing to do with the remake, and MGM offered him a executive producer credit. A lot of times the executive producer credit is for people who just came up with the idea. They don't actually work on the film. They just get the credit for coming up with the idea. And he flat out said, no, I don't want this credit, because that's how much he's upset with this remake, because he doesn't want a credit for having nothing to do with the movie. And
it should be said, having that credit could mean a lot of money for him at the end of the year, too.
Right, yeah, and he just flat out turned it down. And another reason he turned it down is he's still making his own Child's Play movies, his own Chucky movies. So there's going to be these two Chucky universes now, where there's the MGM remake, and then there's Don Mancini's universe, which he's now turning into a TV series. And, the way he put it was, if this movie comes out and this movie is terrible, it could in a way tarnish the brand that he's still working in. So, he's worried it's going to interfere with his livelihood, basically, because all he does really is make Chucky movies, and, he does some TV work too. So that's where it stands. He has nothing to do with this remake. He's not happy about it, and I'm not happy about it either. So I feel for you, Don Mancini.
We'll have to see how this turns out. Let's move on to they're doing a 21 Jump Street spinoff, a female-led 21 Jump Street spinoff. And we now know who they're eyeing for the stars of this movie. Brad, tell us about it.
Yeah, so we're finally seeing that this 21 Jump Street spinoff is coming together. It's been in the works for a while now. We keep hearing about it on and off for a few years. And it seems like this is the one that's going to make it out of the other possible continuation of the 21 Jump Street franchise, which would have had Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum become part of the Men in Black. But obviously with a lot of the female-led remakes and whatnot coming around, this seems a little bit more appealing as far as box office is concerned. So it looks like Tiffany Haddish is currently in early talks to have one of the lead roles. And since she's a huge comedy star right now, that feels like a no-brainer. And then the second lead, although she's not in negotiations or anything yet, apparently at the top of the list for the second lead is Awkwafina, who had a pretty big breakthrough role as a supporting star in Crazy Rich Asians. She was also part of Ocean's 8. So it's still early on right now. They're still getting the cast together. And it might seem odd that Tiffany Haddish isn't talked for this because she's not really that young of an actress to be able to play an undercover cop working in high school. Granted, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill weren't super young when they did theirs, but they used it, like made jokes out of it and that kind of thing. But Tiffany Haddish is even older than they were at the time that they started doing 21 Jump Street. But apparently there's going to be a change kind of in how these cops go undercover that will make it make sense. Apparently Tiffany Haddish's character will be posing as a teacher at the high school and also the mother of a new student who is also an undercover cop, and that's what Awkwafina's role would be. So we get a new character dynamic here because we have to have these two characters pretending to be a mother and daughter, and so that makes it feel a little bit more fresh, which I actually like. It's not just taking the same plot as 21 Jump Street and just having two female characters instead. Gives it a different spin, allows for different comedic situations, and I hope that it works. They have 22 Jump Street writer Rodney Rothman, who is retooling the script, and he's also supposed to direct instead of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So hopefully he can capture some of what made the first two Jump Street movies so good.
Yeah, the director's the only thing about that story that doesn't excite me about that movie. Let's move on to Resident Evil. They're rebooting this video game to movie franchise, and they have found a director. Ben, what do we know?
Yes, so Johannes Roberts, who's the guy who directed 47 Meters Down, the low-budget shark movie that actually overperformed pretty well in 2017 when that was released, is directing a Resident Evil reboot. So we wrote, I think it was last year, about how James Wan, the director of Aquaman and The Conjuring, was attached to produce this movie, but in Variety's report yesterday that talks about Roberts being hired to direct this reboot, they didn't mention James Wan's name in there at all. So that's kind of distressing because I think for a lot of people, the idea of Wan being attached to that gave them a little bit of a sigh of relief of like, okay, this property is going to be in hands of people who know what they're doing as filmmakers. Johannes Roberts has directed The Other Side of the Door and The Strangers Pray at Night, and he also has 47 Meters Down.
Those sound like two movies that probably Chris has seen.
Yeah, I don't know. Chris, have you seen those?
What was the first one?
The Other Side of the Door.
I didn't see that, but I did see Strangers Pray at Night, which I did like. So
okay, all right. And he also is directing 47 Meters Down, The Next Chapter, which for some reason is not called 48 Meters Down anymore. I don't understand why they changed that title. But Peter, this is the kind of news story that like I almost fall asleep while I'm writing it because it's like what we were talking about yesterday with Robert Schwenke directing the Snake Eyes movie. It's like, yeah, I guess there's competent people and, sure, it's a franchise that you recognize, but like, give me more than that. I don't know.
I'm not a big video gamer. I know there are people that love those Resident Evil movies from Paul W.S. Anderson, but I know that there's also a lot of video game fans that want a more faithful adaptation of the game series. So maybe this is the chance to get that. I don't know. Like you said, I have no money in this game. So, to me, it just doesn't sound that interesting. Brad, are you at all interested in a new Resident Evil movie?
I mean, the original Resident Evil movies were pretty much perfect and my favorite movies of all time. So I just can't imagine a remake doing any better than what Paul W. Anderson already did. Like, we're talking video game masterpiece here. It's no, I don't care. I don't care.
I guess the only thing that's worth probably pointing out is that the original Resident Evil franchise is the highest grossing film franchise based on a video game. So it holds that distinction, but that's kind of about it, I think.
And McDonald's is one of the most popular restaurants in the world.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of McDonald's, MoviePass has returned, and they have announced new plans that they're hoping to win back customers. Brad, what is going on here?
I'm not sure what that segue was, but I'll go along with it.
I'm just okay, it was probably a bad segue, but I was trying to compare MoviePass to McDonald's.
Look, Brad, they both start with M, all right? So just let it go.
Start with M.
That's a good point.
Hey, not every segue can be a winner, Brad.
I did hear MoviePass is going to start selling chicken McNuggets too. So, but no, MoviePass guys, they've changed. Like they were so bad at all the things they were doing. After they started losing money and like changing their policies but
they're bringing back the McRib. See,
they are bringing back the McRib. But yeah, so came back and they basically groveled in this little profile with Variety. MoviePass CEO Mitch Lowe says, quote, "We have a lot to prove to all our constituents. We don't just have to prove ourselves to our members, but we also have to prove ourselves to the investment community, our employees, and our partners. We believe we're doing everything that we possibly can to deliver a great service, and we're in the process of fixing all the things that went wrong." And that part of that big fix includes introducing 3 new monthly plans that are different tiers that give you different kinds of access to movie tickets. They have a select one that is their cheapest option that will get you 3 movies a month, but not all movies will be available the first weekend that they're in release. There'll be limitations on that, kind of like what MoviePass currently has with their subscriptions.
How much is that?
That one starts at $9.95, but it's a little bit more expensive if you live in the higher populated areas like New York and Los Angeles. We have a little picture chart in our article that you can check out and see exactly what how higher the price could be depending on where you live. The second one is the all-access one that starts at $14.95. That will allow you access to any movie at any time, no restrictions, but you can't see anything in IMAX or 3D. And then there's the red carpet one, which is all movies, all showtimes, and it also gets you into one premium screening, which means 3D, IMAX, different kinds of formats, whatever, and that starts at $19.95 a month. Again, all of these plans are still only 3 movies a month, so you're still not really getting as much of a bargain as you were with, say, the AMC Stubs A-List promotion, which gives you 3 movie tickets to whatever screening you want at any time every single week. But this is apparently the best price model for them to be able to break even on paying for tickets and also stay afloat. There's also new yearly subscription prices that you can check out as well in our article. And apparently, along with part of the housekeeping, Mitch Lowe, he'll still be the CEO. There's a new executive vice president named Khalid Etam. I assume that's how you pronounce his name. He's taking over the day-to-day operations, and he was responsible for apparently creating these new pricing models, and he's going to forge new relationships with studios and exhibitors. I just don't know if this feels like too little too late for me to MoviePass. I think they've broken the trust of a lot of subscribers. They're not coming out and saying how many they've lost since all of their problems that they've had. But these new pricing tiers go into effect on January 1st, so we'll see if it's enough to keep them around, or if it's just one terrible last breath of trying to stay in business.
What do you guys think? Like this? I mean, these prices are okay. I love AMC A-List. I'm using it every week. I'm going to AMC theaters. I probably only see like 1 movie a week, but even then, if you even if you see like 1 movie a month in LA, that's worth the price. These prices are very competitive. Even if you're only seeing those 3 movies a month, there's a lot of films that don't screen at AMC theaters, a lot of indie films. This is a little bit tempting, but I feel like, it's like fool me once, shame on me. It's that whole saying. Ben, Brad, I mean, Chris, like, what do you think? Like, is this enough to make you want to go back to MoviePass?
No, absolutely not. I think, the brand is tarnished forever. Like, I don't know if they could do anything at this point to win back. Like Brad was saying, they eroded the trust so much over the past year of just terrible decision after terrible decision that I just don't know how anybody could be like, you know what? I believe them this time that everything's going to be great. I'm going to give them more of my money. It just, I don't know. I feel like everyone should just write them off and explore other options if this is something that you're interested in, because that's what I would do. There's no way that I would subscribe to MoviePass at this point.
Brad, I know you enjoyed many years as a MoviePass subscriber. Like, is there nothing they can do?
No, I mean they could give me my own movie theater, and I wouldn't sign up for MoviePass because I'm sure that movie theater would get taken away once they go out of business.
I feel so bad for MoviePass, but they royally ruined this. They screwed this up so badly. Let's move on to a new poll, which shows that most people do not consider Die Hard to actually be a Christmas movie. Chris, tell us about it.
Yeah, so every year around this time, this argument crops up where some people insist Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and then some people say it's not. So in with the hopes of putting this argument to bed, which will clearly never happen, a poll was run by The Hollywood Reporter and this company called Morning Consult, and I'm not going to give you the facts and figures, but basically it boils down to this: more people think Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie than think it is. So in other words, according to this poll, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. So like I said, this argument will probably never die down, but that's where it stands according to this poll, at least for now.
But they have like Die Hard Christmas books. Isn't that enough to prove that it's a Christmas movie at this point?
I mean, look, according to me, I think it is a Christmas movie, but obviously I guess I'm in the minority according to this poll.
I guess we should discuss, what actually makes a movie a Christmas movie.
Hey, Peter. Hi, Peter.
Jacob?
Yes. Hi, Peter. I heard you say what makes a Christmas movie, and I warped onto the podcast as soon as possible because I have very strong opinions about this subject. Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the podcast / film managing editor, Jacob Hall.
Hello. I'll start with a question. I have a question for all of you. Would you watch Elf in July?
I guess no. I guess not.
No.
Would you watch Die Hard in July?
See, I would say no.
I would watch Elf in July simply because of all the Christmas in July promotions.
So Jacob picked the worst possible example month.
Anyway, my gonzo opinion, the one that I'm told I'm psychotic for having, and you guys can let me have it in a second, is that a Christmas movie There's a difference between a Christmas movie and a movie set at Christmas. A Christmas movie can only be watched and fully enjoyed in December, whereas a movie set at Christmas, like Die Hard or Batman Returns or It's a Wonderful Life, can be enjoyed year-round. I would never watch Elf outside of December. I would never watch Polar Express outside of December. I would never watch The Grinch or Rudolph outside of December, because that would be a crazy thing to do, because they are Christmas movies. Whereas you can enjoy Die Hard, a movie set at Christmas but not about Christmas, where you can remove the Christmas from it and it's still the same movie. And look, if you can remove Christmas from the plot still functions the same, it is not a Christmas movie. And that applies to Die Hard, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, and all those movies. So they are not Christmas movies.
Wait, if you remove the Christmas from Die Hard, then what kind of party are they having at the time?
My wife has office parties every other month for all kinds of things. It's a corporate thing. Everyone has parties.
Oh, they have parties where people are dressed up like Santa Claus and stuff like that? And
Die Hard does not need Santa Claus. You take Santa Claus from Die Hard, it's the same movie.
What's John McClane going to write on that guy's sweatshirt? Hey, it's an office party. I got a machine gun.
Any other great line of dialogue, because you know what, Die Hard is full of amazing, witty, memorable dialogue. It has nothing to do with Christmas. So come up with something else.
I've worked with Jacob for years now, very closely. He's the managing editor of the site. We've argued over, what should be on the site, what shouldn't be on the site. I've never, ever heard him be this this passionate about I don't know, his feelings on something other than, you know, does anybody have an argument against this? Like, I feel like I would watch Elf in like July.
See, I sort of see what Jacob is saying, but I also like, I consider Eyes Wide Shut a Christmas movie because Christmas is all over that movie, and I would never watch Eyes Wide Shut in like July because I would feel weird. I always watch it in December. So I think in some ways I'm agreeing with Jacob, but I'm also allowing for more movies into that that classification that he is. Because the same thing with like Edward Scissorhands. Like, I'd feel weird watching that in April, but I would gladly watch it this month because it has so much Christmas, visuals in it, Christmas imagery.
Yeah, I think I think what this boils down to is a feeling versus an aesthetic, and Chris seems to be more open to defining a Christmas movie based on a film's aesthetic and whether or not it has like Christmas decorations and lights and stuff like that in it. And Jacob seems to be more in tune with like, does this movie give you that special Christmas feeling, which is like more ineffable than than demonstrable, I think, in a lot of cases. But and so I kind of, on, you know, if you're drawing that line, I kind of am on Jacob's side, except earlier in the Slack channel, Jacob mentioned that It's a Wonderful Life is not a Christmas movie because if you take Christmas out of it, it still, you know, fits his requirements of like just being a drama that you could watch anytime. And I firmly feel like It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie. So I don't know. I'm like one leg in, one leg out on this one, I think.
Ben, are you implying that you can't be generous 11 months out of the year? That you wouldn't rush to your fellow man's aid in September? It has to be in December? Is that the argument you're making here on this podcast, Ben?
No, the argument is that It's a Wonderful Life gives me that ineffable Christmas feeling, whereas a lot of other movies do not. So therefore, I consider it on my personal scale a Christmas movie.
Wait, Jacob, then what about Gremlins? Is Gremlins a Christmas movie?
Gremlins is really tough because it's soaked in Christmas imagery. But I think that because Gremlins exists to subvert the imagery and to like take the piss out of it and to like really be nasty about it, that doesn't quite qualify. It is a subversion of Christmas as opposed to embracing of Christmas. So Gremlins is totally fine for July.
How about You've Got Mail?
You've Got Mail is not a Christmas movie. It is a movie set at Christmas.
Also, You've Got Mail isn't even really mostly set at Christmas, so I don't even consider that a Christmas movie like at all.
Yeah, I think there has to be like a certain ratio because, you know, as Lethal Weapon also takes place during Christmas, the first one, but I don't really classify that as Christmas because there's only like one scene where you see Christmas stuff and the rest of the movie is very non-Christmassy, whereas Die Hard, it's all set in one place around Christmas time, and that makes it feel more Christmassy. I don't know. I know none of this is official. This is just how I look at it.
I just want to put out one more thing before people yell at me about this. I'm not saying you can't watch Gremlins or Die Hard in December or at Christmas. That's fine. You're welcome to. They are great for the season. I just would not pigeonhole them as Christmas movies. I hope that makes sense.
You know, some people actually consider some of the Harry Potter movies and Lord of the Ring movies to be Christmas movies.
Because they were released at that time, and it gives people like that. The movies people watched in theaters with their families, like when they came out in this season years ago. So I get it. I get why that's a comforting thing to do, but they're not Christmas movies.
So for you, the bottom line is if you could remove Christmas from the movie and it would still be basically the same movie, it's not a Christmas movie?
That would be my definition, yes. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy those movies at Christmas time, but I do think that the average Christmas movie tends to be not very good for this reason. Like Die Hard is a great movie. It's better than pretty much any other Christmas movie out there. But like Miracle on 34th Street, the original one from the 40s, I adore that movie. It's wonderful and lovely. Maybe the high watermark of what a Christmas movie can be. But if you remove Christmas from that movie, the entire thing falls apart. It is built on a foundation of Christmas and the holiday season. Whereas Die Hard, like we discussed earlier, office party. You don't need the Christmas.
But so you're almost suggesting that a Christmas movie is not as good as a normal movie?
I think that once you take into account movies that are fundamentally about Christmas and fall under my admittedly possibly crazy definition of what a Christmas movie is, there aren't that many great Christmas movies. I think there are a lot of comforting Christmas movies, a lot of really lovely Christmas movies, a lot of very fun Christmas movies, but very few of them have any interest in being great movies. They want to be comfort food, which is fine for the season. That's what we want out of the season. We want something pleasant to enjoy with our families. So I get it. But I think I only need one hand to count like maybe the Christmas movies I think are legit great films, whereas I would need, a couple dozen hands to count the great movies that are set at Christmas. How crazy am I? Am I crazy?
Shane Black is going to hear this podcast and weep somewhere. Wherever he is.
Like, I feel like those Charlie Brown, I guess, are those movies or TV specials?
They're TV
specials.
I mean, that the Charlie Brown Christmas has to be a Christmas thing. It's literally about Christmas. You can't remove that. No one's arguing that, right?
Wait, I got one. What about The Nightmare Before Christmas, Jacob?
Halloween movie, man.
No, that's a Christmas movie.
It's a Halloween. It is about Halloween conquering Christmas and how Halloween is better than Christmas. It's a Halloween movie all around.
It starts when Halloween is over. Halloween has ended when that movie starts. It can't be a Halloween movie.
It's a celebration of Halloween and about how Christmas is never going to fulfill you as much as Halloween will. Halloween's always going to be there for you, or Christmas lets you down and leaves you spiraled on the ground after your sleigh is shot down. Worthless, man. Christmas is a worthless holiday. Halloween wins. That's the message of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Wow. Oh boy, this took a dark turn.
All right, now let's talk about Hanukkah movies.
I'm sure there's lots of listeners out there that are disagreeing with everything that's being said on this podcast. If you have a strong opinion that is something that wasn't said in this discussion of Christmas movies, please send it to peter@slashfilm.com and maybe we'll read it on the air in a future episode. Jacob, where can we find more of you online?
I'm on slashfilm.com and I'm on Twitter where I'm at Jacob S. Hall.
Brad, where can we find more of your work?
At Ethan_Anderton on Twitter, my podcast, Go Flix Yourself on iTunes, and always at slashfilm.com.
Ben, where can we find you?
Slashfilm.com and Twitter and Instagram at Ben Pears.
Chris, where are you at?
I, too, am at slashfilm.com, and I'm on Twitter at CEvangelista413.
You can find me at SlashFilm on all social media. You can find all the stories we talked about today on SlashFilm.com and linked in the show notes. This podcast, Slash Film Daily, is published every weekday on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please go to our iTunes page, write us a review, write us a couple sentences, tell people why you love this podcast, tell your friends, spread the word. We'll see you tomorrow.